going to touch upon in more depth about this essential principle, commandment, obstacle, teaching of practical work and the fourth way, as well as in many other teachings. Basically, it appears in other teaching is this the state of imagination, the state of imagination. Gurdjieff said that humanity is this sick with this sickness of tomorrow. So that is not perceived as a sickness, is considered normal. Having our being in the here and now, our being, which is our spirit, at a certain sleepwalking setting where our attention is missing what is missing the what's here, and the beauty and the miracle of existence, with this churning of producing and entertaining of thoughts of past and future about me. Usually it's not just past and future, it's about me in the past and future. And I'm not talking about this necessary thinking of planning something, planning some future workshop or planning some trip, which is a great quality of the human intellect to anticipate and this or that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about an incessant, compulsive, not being able to stay in the here and now, being aware and going, the mind living, basically the body's here, the mind is somewhere else, and awareness is weak. And usually these imaginings, in the Sufis they call it the veil of imaginings that is covering the face of the beloved. The beloved is a key word for our spirit being, the being. So usually this veil, it's not just neutral imaginings. For most people, they are torturous imaginings. We are not imagining wonderful scenarios, how wonderful it's going to be when we're going to go to this vacation, or it's usually not like that for most people. I think it's some imagining of something bad that may happen or something that may go wrong, or so there's an element of suffering with this future imagining. Also, the same quality of the disease of yesterday, we tend to not imagine, oh, it was so sweet when I went to my grandma, she was so wonderful and we had a great time there. It was somehow, strangely, we have some attraction, magnetism towards something bad that happened, or something, so rehashing about me again, rehashing how I showed up, maybe how I talked, how I didn't react well, or how they mistreated me, or how it's not fair what they did to me, or all the, if only, I wasted those time when I was in my 20s and I made these mistakes, and going back there. Yeah, so this is an aspect of imagination, what we call imagination, is being lost in what's not happening, and suffering what's not happening. But also it has other dimensions, because from one angle, this imaginary picture of oneself as being me with the first name, be Mihai or Peter, or me as a person. In Non-Duality, they talk about that the cause of the sleep is the state of ignorance, where consciousness is believes and feels that is this sense of a person. He called this ignorance. So in non-duality, or especially one of my teachers, Francis, he was actually, I remember, he doesn't, almost never uses the word ego, never, because it may give some idea that ego is imprecise. It's also in popular culture, popular psychology, and also it may give this idea that there is a something that is real, whereas he uses the word, and also the teachings, they use the word avidya, which is the state of sleep and of ignorance about what we are. State of ignorance and forgetfulness of what we truly are. So, coming back to imagination, so this state of imagining, it starts to imagine this sense of person that we are so sure that it is not worthy of love, or it doesn't matter, or knows better, or is righteous. This sense of a separate person also is a product of imagination, is an imagined construct based on chronology, past chronology, the file, the resume, with memories and with cluster of sensations in the body that feel familiar, like me. As well as is based on this identification of a being with the body. The sense of me as this being aware. As we are a kid, we're aware. It took about 2 years to sense that I am me inside this body. So consciousness, that's the initial belief, basically. The first belief, it seems, is that this which is aware is the body. It's the body that is aware. So starting from there, then there's this embroidery. So it's an imagining ourselves as a person. And this false personality is this accumulation of a lot of investment in this imaginary account. And the purpose of one aspect of the work here is to become more conscious and ability to observe in a skillful way without judging or going into analyzing what we observe right away. So we start to observe this fictitious sense of me. So we start to investigate this false personality, which is the imaginary picture of myself, which has been created through this imagining and identification for a long time. So, and as Suzuki said, in order to live in the realm of Buddha nature, we have to die as a small being, moment after moment. And I remember that you hear this and you're like, whoa, yeah, man, I like that. This is deep. Yeah, I need to die. But then how? So fourth way makes it a little bit more practical with what we've been talking all along and what we are going to talk today. So I'm going to, I threw this ball rolling and I'm going to pass it to Peter. I know you have a lot of juice around that.
I just wanted to start. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, just give me a moment to do something here.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, very good.
Okay. Well, before I start, I wanted to say first that I thought it was so beautiful starting the meeting so silently, coming in, being silent, and then having those few minutes, 5 minutes or so. It did feel very monastic felt very, not in an artificial way, in a real way. It was very, presence was almost palpable. It was just, I just thought it was beautiful. I just wanted to comment on that. And I was thinking to talk about this subject from the point of view that there are two kinds of imagination, generally speaking, two types. And Mihai has touched on them. One is this daydreaming, this automatic mind activity that goes on all by itself and takes on a life of its own. And then how this also is a characteristic of the ego, of the imaginary I, and what it means that we imagine ourselves. And when I was listening to Mihai introduce the topic, what struck me was that this word imaginary means just that. It means not real. It's not real. It does not exist in reality. And all this daydreaming, it's the same thing. It does not exist. It is like watching a silent movie in our head that is completely apart from what's going on around us. It may be in association to, it may be a response to, but it has nothing to do with reality. This is a powerful, deep idea, concept, truth really behind this concept of what imagination is. And then much harder to grasp is this idea that the same is true of our feeling of identity. It is actually concocted in us psychologically, this feeling of I. But I thought then we could also talk later about, well, how can we see this better in ourselves, and what are some recommended ways to try to combat imagination in ourselves? And to start with, to just talk about this daydreaming, I think everybody knows by now, when you watch yourself internally, you see that what happens is there's this river of thoughts, this river of imaginings begins to flow inside. And what happens is awareness, you could say from one point of view, awareness falls into it. Our awareness tumbles into the stream and gets carried away by it. Sometimes for a few minutes, sometimes for a few hours, sometimes longer. And it's startling to think how many people are living their lives in this stream, in this river of imagination. And their awareness is asleep. It's drowning in this river, literally. What's interesting, though, and Mihai also touched on this, is that imagination is actually the result of a lack of conscious awareness. It's the result. If awareness is not conscious, there has to be something to fill that space. And it's like an artificial substitute. And so imagination serves this purpose. Now there's something filling that space. It's like it's now breathing the oxygen that otherwise our awareness would be breathing, moment to moment. So I say this because when we learn about imagination, we can do what we often do with topics like this. We can get fascinated with observing the imagination and parsing out all the different things we are going to imagination about, make lists of subjects, and all that can be very useful. But the main thing is the fact that all of this is happening because we're not present. Consciousness is not here, now, present. And this is really the thing to try to understand. What does that mean? We're not seeing our surroundings. We're not aware of ourselves in our surroundings, both internally and externally. And what does it mean to suddenly come back into focus right here? And then this past and present don't mean so much. I said to Mihai on the phone this morning that pure awareness doesn't have any interest in the past, and it doesn't have any interest in the future. That's all mind. That's the four centers compelling interest, creating urges and impulses and interest in all these things that will give them comfort. But awareness itself is, it's not interested. But in why? Because it's not real. It has nothing to do with real right here. I wanted to say too that, this imagination, it's kind of like a washing machine. And awareness falls into this washing machine. And now it just starts washing. And now all of these thoughts and sensations and feelings and memories and associations and anticipations, as Mihai also said, negative imagination, it's all in there, and it's all in this washing machine, just tumbling around, round and round and round. And it sucks our awareness in there. You could almost say that it is awareness in unconscious form being processed by the four lower centers. This is really what imagination is. And what's so interesting, as soon as we become present, all of that ceases. And it may cease just for a few seconds, it may cease for a few minutes. And even for it to cease for a few minutes is can be an enormous experience where suddenly it's so startling to find yourself present in your surroundings, just doing whatever you're doing, not racing to the next moment, and just being here.